Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Dustin Fox, Jason Lloyd, Tyvis Powell, plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah.
You're done. Finish.
Hey, welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. The weekend is here. Happy Friday, everybody. 90 minutes here, 30 minutes on WKYC. What a fascinating conversation I just walked into. We're talking about the motorcyclists that fly by you on the highway going 100.
Yeah. Hey,
and it's just a street. And you're going 70, 75, and you just see a...
And you going 80, 82. You're like, dang.
And it flies by you like you're standing still.
And I'm like, listen, at any given second, you could be wake up and see your maker, and you're like, what happened? You lost control of your front wheels.
And you never reel it back.
You never reel that back.
No. Once you see this,
it's over.
It's a wrap.
Well, I was just telling the story. I mean, this morning I left the latest I've ever left to get here on time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a whole other thing.
Warp drive.
Pushing that envelope.
But where I was telling the story, my brother used to be a state trooper in Miami. He was a bike cop.
Wow.
And in the Keys and then in Miami.
He saw everything.
Yeah, he saw everything.
Saw it all.
And they used to have those Hayabusas that would go.
Yeah.
And
That's literally what they do.
He said it was, and you can't catch him. And,
No.
And it was the same guy every day. And he'd watch him go by. So they pulled out the helicopter.
Oh, nice. To find out where he was going.
And they tracked him with the helicopter all the way to the apartment building. And my man took his motorcycle into his apartment. And my brother went after him. And like 20 minutes later, whatever it was, they knocked on the door and they said, hey. And the guy denied it. My brother was like, bro, I can smell your bike. I can smell your bike.
That's a great story.
In your apartment.
I'll just hide it in the apartment. It's like his own personal bat cave. Remember the bat cave? You pull in and the little fence pops up.
I always thought, I was like, did Batman have to pay property taxes?
No, he's Batman.
Like
he saves the city.
Like, I'm like, did he really do they come out and appraise the cave? But
there's no Gotham without Batman.
Yeah, he was like, I can smell your
exhaust.
exhaust.
Bruce Wayne had some dough also.
Yeah. I was sitting there thinking, we was talking about it, man. Who's richer, Tony Stark or Bruce Wayne?
Tony Stark, probably.
Tony Stark is really rich.
Yeah.
And then there's
very rich.
Who's
Bruce Wayne was like
Lex
70s rich.
Is Lex Luthor is really rich too.
Yeah, he's got the cash as well. You just want it on the good side. You don't want it on the bad side.
Yeah, Bruce Wayne is one of them people that you get a little upset.
Speaking of Lex Luthor, are you guys pumped for the new Superman? Have you guys seen the trailer?
Yes.
I don't care.
Oh my God.
It looks sweet.
The trailer is just, it's all Cleveland.
Yeah.
And there's a fight scene in Progressive Field.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They show the mall. They show all our buildings, skylines, everything. I can't wait.
I will see that for that.
Yeah.
I'm not into like
too.
the Marvels and the comics.
I'm normally
and all
not
that.
either.
Last time I tried to get in one of those movies, I tried to be an extra. My ex.
Oh, we've got a guy upstairs, a photographer, who's he's an extra in the movie.
My ex-fiance was in all of the Marvel movies as an extra.
Wow.
And then I tried to do it. They was like, no, sir, you can't.
Too big.
They're like, well, you're bigger than Thor. Why would you be a henchman?
You stand out. Too. They don't want anything that stands out in the crowd.
It's like being a black FBI agent. Like you can't be a black CIA agent.
Yeah, how are you supposed to go undercover?
Like,
bro?
Gee, for the record, I have who's richer.
Who is richer?
Bruce Wayne is Tony Stark is richer than Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
12.4 billion, and then Bruce Wayne has 9.2 according to IMDb.
Oh.
Well, if this is according to Forbes, I'm not buying it.
So
IMDb's dead to
so
me.
it's the equivalent of Jimmy Haslam and Dan Gilbert, then, right?
Yeah, because they're pretty close.
Yeah, they're basically pretty close.
Now if you throw the Dolan family in there, Paul Dolan, then there'd be a huge disparity between the two.
No,
he's just like kind of rich.
No,
Paul Dolan is Aquaman.
No, he's Peter Parker.
Oh, man.
He's Peter Parker. He got a part-time job. He's he's working for one of the newspapers.
He's just
moonlighting,
working stiff.
just working.
Throws on the suit.
He's asking Clark King, hey, y'all got something up at the Daily Press up there? Y'all got something we can do? Nah, bro.
Speaking of that, we're going to talk about the Guardians. What yesterday was as ugly as they've looked in years. On Channel 3, I said it's their ugliest game of the season.
Wow.
But then I thought about it, and I think this is the ugliest game that they've played in several years. And I couple that with the way they've looked the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
This was the culmination of it. They had twice as many errors as hits. They look lethargic. They look like they're mailing it in. These games are important because the Blue Jays are one of the teams that they're in the wild card race. And the reality of this is, and we'll talk about this much more, Heidi Watney's calling the game tonight. She's going to be the sideline reporter for the game tonight. She's going to join us. At some point, you have to declare buyer or seller. 12 of the 15 teams in the American League are within 3 games of a playoff spot.
Yeah.
So what that means is you've got this log jam, and everybody can't be a buyer. So I think that we're fast approaching the realization that they are sellers, not buyers. Why they haven't called up the kids from the minor leagues, I don't know. I don't know what we're waiting on here.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get into all that later. But yesterday was as ugly a Guardians game as I can remember, both offensively and defensively. 2 hits. They lead off the game with what could have been easily been an out. The Quan liner to left turned into a double after review. And then Manzardo had a broken bat check bunt single. And either of those, I mean, they're both cheap hits.
Right.
They easily could have been no hit yesterday.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yikes. And the defense. Oh, my God. Okay. Mike, we got Cavs draft to talk about.
We do, and we're going to talk some Browns, we'll talk some Guardians, and they hit Jose yesterday, and there wasn't much of a escalation after that, and I'm curious to see what you guys think about the lack of escalation to the Guardians' best player getting punked. But we will start with some Cavs draft stuff after a quick word from FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're in baseball mode, golf mode, or you're into high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburnt at the beach. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if their first $5 bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to get started. Guys, the Cavs did not have a draft pick in the first round of the NBA draft. They did have 2 picks in the second round last night. And with those 2 picks, the Cavs came away with Tyrese Proctor, the guard out of Duke, and Saliu Niang, the draft and stash wing from Senegal. You can never have enough Niangs in Cleveland. That's what everyone said when they had George a couple of years ago. Proctor was a guy who consensusly was mocked higher than 49 for Cleveland, but we had heard in the aftermath of the selection that he may have forced his way to Cleveland because they had a guaranteed roster spot available on the NBA level. Jason, we'll start with you. What do you make of the Cavs' 2 second-round picks here in Tyrese Proctor and Saliu Niang?
Long-term plays, I think, for both of them. Roster spot doesn't mean playing time. And I think this is a long play to try and start to backfill some of the guys that they could lose. And, I don't expect Sam Merrill to be back next year. And Proctor's a guy who could eventually sort of slide into that spot. He's got some good size to him. I heard Mike DeCourcy on this morning on 92.3 talking about he just needs a little bit more confidence and he needs to have just a little more confidence in his game. So listen, if these guys are ready to play and contribute right away, they'd go in the first round. And the fact that they fall to where they are sort of means they got some development to do, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. We've seen it with Jalen Tyson last year, sort of as a first-round pick. There was no spot for him because the rotation was full. Now he's going to get an opportunity this year. The same thing will probably be true with Tyrese Proctor. He's a guy who I don't know that he's going to get heavy minutes, right away next year, but he's a guy that if he develops and stays the course, he could help this team in the future. Yeah.
He reminded me of like a taller, better shooter than Craig Porter Jr. He plays real under control. Like he has his nice control to his game. He can shoot threes 40, I think 41% behind the arc. He's not a super duper athlete. I'm confused that I can't find a real height for this dude. I don't know. People keep saying he's a combo.
So, G,
he's
real
6'4"
quick,
or 6'6".
On the height, he was measured at 6'4" without shoes at the combine.
So
he was
6'4".
listed at 6'6" on Duke's website.
Okay.
So he's probably 6'6" with shoes.
Same with Niang. I saw him
6'4"
listed
without shoes.
anywhere from 6'6" to
6'9".
6'9".
Well, he's a little different because he's an overseas international
Right.
guy.
So you can't really
The
get
one thing with
Yeah.
Proctor, though, the confirmed wingspan measurement for Proctor, this does make a difference.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
6'7.5".
Yeah.
So he's long. How tall
It also
G,
means
I'm not
he
sure.
may not be done growing.
Yeah.
21, but
So-
yeah.
Possible.
But
I-
G, continue. I just wanted to clarify the height.
No, because I was going to ask because I couldn't really find nothing. But the thing I agree with Jason. These are the roles that we're looking at down the line. So, like, say for instance, Sam Merrill, shooter. You want an opportunity. You're probably not going to bring Sam Merrill back, and he's a little bit bigger, maybe more athletic than Sam Merrill. Hopefully, he can shoot the same as Sam Merrill, so you replace him. You got Ty Jerome. I don't know what's going on with his deal, how much somebody else is going to offer Ty Jerome. But if they grossly are outbid or overbid for Ty Jerome, they may decide that they're going to go with a youth movement and give somebody else an opportunity at the back of the roster to earn that position. Now, when you're in the second apron, you have to be very judicious in what you're looking at. Like, I think that the thing that I've learned a little bit, and a lot of people has learned, is, you know, we were talking about how the Celtics were going to dismantle their stuff last year and earlier than that. And, you know, Drew Holiday gets traded, Porzingis gets traded. You know, you hear Jaylen Brown's name. So there is some ramifications. So you can't just keep running it back. It don't really work that way, especially if you're not winning championships. So I think he's a dude that you plug in, see what he can do. And for the Cavs, for me, looking at the finances, they're gonna have to find somebody in the back end of their bench, whether it's Porter Jr., Jalen Tyson, and Monty Bates, this guy. They're gonna have to develop two of those guys and plug those guys in and play and figure out what they got, because you can't just keep bringing other people and trading for big name players. You got to find somebody to develop.
Yeah, the Cavs have reached a point, and we've been talking about this for 2 years. They've reached a point where if they're going to improve from the team they are today, it's pretty much going to have to be this way. It's going to have to be from guys they've drafted that overachieved. Mike, can we see that graphic again about where everyone had him mocked? Because I want to know what's the consensus as to why he dropped so far.
So it's very interesting. And this kind of came out last night. I heard from some people this morning the same thing. He was telling teams, don't draft me. I want to go to Cleveland.
Wow.
Because Cleveland
said no one ever.
Because
Right.
Cleveland had a guaranteed NBA roster spot available.
Well, that's smart. It's smart
The
on his
teams
part.
between 41-ish and 48 only
Don't.
had two-way G League contract spots.
Okay.
That's a
So
smart move. I
Tyrese
like
Proctor
that.
said, I want to sign a multi-year deal. Now, this is all reported. Danny Cunningham from Locked On Cavs mentioned this last night. I heard the same thing this morning from someone
It
within
sounds
the Cavs
legit.
organization. It all adds up.
Yeah.
You know, just
Right.
hearing it from sources. The Cavs didn't say this last night. Proctor's camp will never admit this publicly.
Sure.
But all of it adds up. He was a guy that in all the mocks was somewhere between 35 and 40. You know,
I mean, that's almost a late first round draft pick.
and the Cavs said they may have said this about any player they drafted, but Mike Gansey, who did his press conference last night, said they had a late first-round grade on Tyrese Proctor when he was available at 49. It was a no-brainer for them. I think part of the reason he was available at 49 was he told teams, I want a fully guaranteed NBA roster spot. I don't want to be a G League guy. I don't want to be a two-way guy. You don't have that to offer. Cleveland does. Don't take me.
Interesting.
Because I want to be a part of this Cleveland Cavaliers team, knowing that I'm going to get a
I
fully
like him more
guaranteed
now.
multi-year contract.
I like him. I like him more now. First of all, he's a Duke guy, so I think he's probably a relatively smart guy.
And anybody with the name Tyrese is good, obviously, now.
Yeah, apparently.
Halliburton, Maxey, all the above.
Protect your Achilles.
Yeah,
though.
listen, there's like, hold on, he's light-skinned.
Can I give you a couple
I like him.
other things on Tyrese Proctor?
Yeah.
So my first thought when this happened, I did a live draft stream last night, so if
I
you guys
watched it,
want
by
to
the
go
way.
back, you can tune in. When I watched Duke, I was always a little disappointed in Tyrese Proctor.
Were you?
Well, he was a 5-star kid coming in. He played 3 years at Duke. He was good, but he was never great. But then I had to take some time to think about it, and maybe the reason he was never great was even though he was a 5-star, Last year he was playing with Cooper Flagg, Con Knippel, Malawak,
Sure, he's in
Sion
shadows.
James, 4 guys who were drafted ahead of him. The year before, Duke also had the best freshman class they had ever had until this most recent freshman class.
Right.
So he kind of got phased out. But I dove into some of the shooting numbers, and I see this pick as Sam Merrill insurance. If you lose Sam Merrill, you are now potentially adding a guy who shoots the ball, maybe not at Sam Merrill's level yet, but is probably a better ball handler than Sam Merrill now, better kind of creator off the dribble than Sam Merrill, ends longer than Sam Merrill. But if you dive into some of these advanced shooting stats, and Steve, you want to take tag board here full, he made 47% of his threes off the dribble.
Wow.
Which is an absurd clip, like absolutely absurd clip. He shot 43% on catch and shoot threes. This season, that was in the 95th percentile of all of college basketball. Off pick and roll situations where he was the ball handler, he shot 46.4% as a three-point shooter. So off the dribble, very, very, very good shooter. Is it to the level of Kobe Bryant, the guy I really wanted, who was taken at 41? No, it's not. But still a very
not
productive,
far behind him,
efficient shooter, especially in those specific situations. For his career, he had a 2.3 to 1 assist-to-turnover ratio, so he's very careful with the ball. He played on ball. He played off ball. He came in as a point guard. He transitioned more to an off-ball guard, can run off screens, and that 6'7.5" wingspan is at least appealing because he's not the strongest guy. Like the weaknesses on Tyrese Proctor is he's 6'4", weighed in the combine at less than 180.
He can work on that, though. That can change.
But, yeah, he has the frame that you would hope can put on a little bit of weight. He's not a one-and-done guy, so he's a little older. So he did have 3 years in the Duke weight system to put on some weight.
Right.
He came in at 175. He weighed in at the combine at 181. So it's not a lot of weight, but it's a solid pick. It's a guy with a good pedigree, an all-ACC player, led Duke, or led's not the right word, but was part of a Duke team that reached the Final Four this season. So clearly can play. And at the end of the day, he's a guy that has an NBA-ready jump shot and is Sam Merrill's replacement if you lose Sam Merrill. So I think it's a good pick.
I like it. I kept getting texts from people saying, who are these guys? And I'm like, listen, it's not 1986 anymore.
Yeah, come on, man.
You know, this is what the NBA draft looks like now. And the fact that the Cavs don't have a first-round draft pick, you have to temper your expectations to reality. And after hearing all of the experts talk about this guy, because I have to tell you, I only saw Duke a handful of times, and he did not jump off the floor to me. He just didn't.
And it's hard to jump off the court when you have Cooper Flagg, Con Knippel,
that's right.
Shallow Malawak, and Sion James.
I couldn't take my eyes off Flagg. He's
so good.
He was phenomenal. He does everything.
Knippel's so good, too.
And so he didn't jump off the floor at me. But we don't need a guy that's the pillar. We don't need a guy that you can build around. We need a piece. And I think he can be a piece. And as for Niang, who knows? He's probably a 2 or 3 year project. He's already been in Europe a couple of years.
Minimum 2 years till he's an NBA guy.
Right.
Minimum 2 years.
And if they get anything out of him, it's a bonus. Second-round draft picks, especially nearly the last pick in the draft, it is what it is. You can hope that the player develops, and they did their due diligence on him to make sure that he's the kind of guy that's going to put in the work and that he's going to really commit to being a great player. If he does, it's kind of a found asset. It's a bonus. But right now, I'm just pretty much focusing on Proctor. I guess we're going to give grades in the TV show, so I'll hold off on that.
I need them to take that Oklahoma City playbook. It just seemed like Oklahoma City, they got one dude, right? And they seem like everybody they got overachieves. All of them. Like if you was to take them off, you'd be like, take this guy off this team and put him somewhere else. I just don't think that they would perform the same. But it seems like everybody they draft, everybody they bring in, free agents, they all play over their head. I just want a couple of these dudes to get them and pay over their head for the Cavs. That's all I want. If they can get it done that way, second round, who knows? But is he going to be in Summer League?
Yes.
Proctor?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they're hoping Niang will. They didn't rule that out last night.
Yeah, no, Niang has a chance to be a Summer League guy.
Yeah.
Proctor will absolutely be a Summer League guy. He just won't be a G League guy. He'll be on the NBA roster when the Cavs break camp as a secondary.
Must watch TV.
Oh, the Summer League.
Must watch.
I mean, G. Bush cancels picnics.
Well, did you hear what the first
games
game of Summer League is? They did announce what the first
next week.
Where?
No. But the first game is going to be Cooper Flagg versus Bronny James. Because of course it is.
It's must see, Jason. Stop playing, man. We got a
When does it start? When does the Summer League start? Middle of July?
Middle of July.
I go
July
out there.
6th, something like that.
I go out there.
So that's a week away.
Yeah. When am I out there?
July 10th through the 20th.
How do you not know? And you're supposed to have. See, this is how white people get me. Y'all get me like this, man. How do y'all have plans that involve major plane tickets and don't even be on?
Oh, that's been me my whole life.
They're like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be going.
My wife will ask me the night before I leave for somewhere. She'll say, "What time's your flight?" I'm like, "I don't know." She's like, "What do you mean you don't know?" I said, "I don't know. It was booked a couple weeks ago. I think it's in the afternoon because I'm not too worried about it." Well, can you look?
Yeah, like,
and
bro.
I'm like, well, I don't need to know until tomorrow.
I'm like, this guy. I'm like, listen, if I'm going anywhere and I got to get on the plane, I know 3 months in advance.
You do?
3, like, because like at the end of the day, that is coming out my checking and my savings. I know, and it's for 2 people. Oh hell no. I know where I'm going. No, no. I gotta. And then see, y'all got that.
Jay, you're like that too, right? You're like me, right?
I mean, I'm looking now to see.
Look, how do you not know the flights? How do you not know?
Because it was probably booked weeks ago.
I mean, I don't even think I booked it.
And then you forget it. I book it and forget it.
I don't think I booked it yet, actually.
Okay, well, at least I book it.
You guys operate in different ways. Before we get to the next part of the draft, I just want to give 2 minutes here on Saliu Niang. By the way,
I didn't book it.
he was actually the most commonly mocked player to the Cavs at 58. So somewhere there was information going past
they liked
the
him.
Cavs liked
Yeah.
Niang.
All right.
He ends up being the pick at number 58. From Senegal, plays in the Italian League, was on nobody's radar until 2 years ago. Kind of made some significant improvements, but depending on which measurements you want to look at, and his range all over the board, from 6'5" to 6'9".
I know.
It's tough to get a good grasp on what
There's
he
a
is.
huge difference between a 6'5" player and a 6'9" player.
And does he have a birth certificate? Do we know he's not 36?
We are unsure on that, but Steve, you want to take the highlights of him down too.
He might be.
He's a big athletic wing that in 2 years you hope can translate as a perimeter defender. Offensively,
Plays great defense, right? I read that about him.
Offensively, not there yet. He made 11 threes in 45 games in the Italian League this year. He had more turnovers than assists. Still incredibly raw on that end of the court. You're going to see a couple of passing highlights here. No joke, I don't know how many assists he had, but Sam Vecini of the Athletics said he had more turnovers than assists in the Italian League he played in. 11 threes in 45 games, but he projects as a big, long, athletic potential wing defender down the road for Cleveland. But Mike Gansey said last night, anytime you take a draft and stash guy, they're on different timetables.
Sure.
They look at Niang's timetable as at least 2 years before he's ready to make the transition over. So,
Hey, Mike,
I would not
give us
expect
a
to see
couple
Niang.
examples of some draft and stash guys that hit.
Jetty Osman.
Oh,
That's a hit?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I mean,
for what it is, you have to temper your expectations. But yeah, he contributed.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people that at the time said, "No, what are they doing? Who is this guy?"
He was a high second-round pick. High.
But it panned out.
But it worked. I mean, the reality is most of the guys taken yesterday are going to play in Europe. They're going to have a nice career in Europe. They're going to make a lot of money for themselves.
Yeah.
There'll be a few that make it in the NBA. I said before, like, you can find talent easier. Like, two things can be true. You can find talent more in the second round, and undrafted guys carve out careers for themselves. Yet, still, by and large, most of the guys taken yesterday, they're going to hang around the NBA for a year or two. I'll give you, who was the guy? Like, Sir Dominic Pointer was the guy the Cavs they took in the second round. You ever hear of Sir Dominic Pointer?
No.
He was the second round pick of them in like 2015-ish, 14.
Whatever happened to him?
I think he went to Europe and played a decade in Europe. He might still be playing.
Wow.
But that's typically the path, is they give it a year or two. They get an offer from somewhere in Israel or Turkey.
They can make decent money overseas.
You can make very good money playing basketball overseas. And you bounce around a couple of the other leagues over there. You play in the Euro League. And you have a nice career for yourself.
It really wouldn't be a bad way to spend your 20s if you think about it.
Traveling Europe?
Bouncing through Europe, making cash, playing hoops.
There's a lot of guys, like dudes that I played basketball with in high school, went overseas. And we bet up. And I was like, yeah, so what's this overseas game talk about? Y'all be good. He said, man, all depend on where you at, bro. He was like, sometimes you be in these Eastern countries, and then some days you wait for that check and it don't come. And I'm like, what do you mean it don't come? Like, they're like, yeah, bro, you just don't be getting this money from Vladimir. Like, it didn't come through.
So there are some
This
names.
ain't the NBA.
Yeah, bro.
Historically speaking, a lot more, and by I mean a lot more misses than hits. But Jokic was drafted, played another year overseas.
That's the greatest pull of all time.
That is the greatest pull of all
Bojan
time.
Bogdanovic, who's still playing in the league.
That's a great one.
He played 3 years overseas before coming over to the NBA after being drafted. Dario Saric played 2 years overseas.
Yeah.
He's a decent role player.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going back 10 years now. it's those three, Jetty Osman and Willie Hernan-Gomez, as the only ones who became.
Does Ricky Rubio count?
No.
No,
he came right over.
He was first round pick.
But didn't somebody? Didn't they
I
stash
don't
him
remember.
like he was like 12 or something?
His was more of a contract thing than a development. Like, there's a difference.
Yeah, so they had to buy him out of that deal
Yeah.
to get him back. Okay.
Well, his wasn't you're not ready to play yet. We're going to hold your rights and you go over here and develop.
Yeah.
I can't remember. He had a contract dispute or something
Yeah.
with the team that he was with. So that was
It was Barcelona. I'll look into that. But I did have one more draft question before we move on to some football topics. This next question is brought to us by Game Time. There's nothing like the NBA playoffs, the intensity, buzzer beaters, fans losing their minds. Now that it's baseball season, you can get in on the action. 4 Major League Baseball tickets, killer last-minute deals, panoramic views from your seats, and no surprise fees thanks to Game Time, which is a total game changer. You could also get NFL tickets through the Game Time app for as low as $100 thanks to exclusive discounts. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. So I mentioned earlier that Tyrese Proctor may have told teams, don't draft me, I want to go to Cleveland because they have an open NBA roster spot. Now, when we were on the live stream last night when the Cavs got to 58, Vlad Golden, the big man out of Michigan, was still on the board. And I was like, you got to take Vlad Golden. I think he can play right away. Play. And then I realized they didn't have an NBA roster spot for him.
Yeah.
They have currently 3 of their two-way players still in the fold, Travers, Bates, and Naquan Tomlin. If they were to draft a Vlad Golden in that spot, it would have meant they had to have given up on one of those two-way players, Bates, Travers, or Naquan Tomlin. So, I know you're the biggest Monty Bates guy on the panel, so I'm just curious. It doesn't have to be him. It could be any of the 3. But would you have been in favor of the Cavs taking a big man that may have been able to contribute this season right away in some capacity over hanging on to the 3 two-ways they currently have and continuing to build them up as prospects?
It all depends on what you're doing with Jared Allen. It seemed like people were more on the lines of moving Jared Allen. Maybe if you're not going to move Jared Allen, do you guys foresee any way that Jared Allen has a diminished role if he's here still?
No, he's not.
So
I agree with that.
So he's going.
If he's here, he's
gonna
Jared
play.
Allen
Okay.
of last year.
Okay. So I would look at it in terms of it. I would have thought about it if. I mean, Luke Travers, I don't know what position they have him. Is he a 3 or a 2 or?
He's a wing.
He's a wing. I would have looked at it possibly with that. This kid right here is 7 foot, right? Did he eventually get drafted?
No, he ended up signing as an undrafted free agent with the Miami Heat.
Okay. Well, look, I would have thought about it, but then again, you know, their evaluation might have been, hey, he doesn't fit our system, so to speak. And we talked to the draft guru. What was his name from that was locked
Rafael
in?
Barlow.
Yeah, he was locked in, and he said, yeah, I asked him about you know, where can we get these goons at, and he said that ain't the way it work no more.
No, it's not like that.
We don't do goons. Like, you got to have a guy with a skill set, like, you know what I'm saying, that can do something. So maybe they thought like, hey, we can't just throw him out. I mean, at least Hartenstein can finish around the rim and pick and roll and do some things. Maybe they just thought it wasn't that. I would have thought about it maybe for Travers or maybe Tomlin, but I don't got a problem with it. You know, they must see what they got in the guys right now, and they think maybe they can contribute or may have a shot to do something. We'll see.
I wanted to ask, this is off topic, but it just hit me again because I started asking myself this question yesterday. There was a report that Dan Gilbert is going to sell 15% of the Cavs. Is that a byproduct of the changes that we've seen in the NBA? This is the first indication to me that, is he cash strapped?
No. When Mark Cuban got out the game, we should have all been looking around.
No,
like,
exactly.
Hold on.
I know, but now Dan Gilbert.
Kid, you want to finish this and then go back to that?
Finish this and get back.
I don't have anything to add to your question because I agree with everything G. Bush said.
I'll put a bow on and then we'll get, because it's interesting
I just wanted to know why.
I'm fascinated by this too. So in terms of the players, like, listen, I'm not going to tell you I know everything about Luke Travers. I don't know. They've put a lot of time to develop in these guys. So you don't want to cut bait, because the whole point of two-way contracts is they're guys who need developed, and it takes time.
And it gives you flexibility.
So you're starting that clock over. If you cut one of these guys and bring in another one, now you're restarting that clock.
Yeah.
So they've invested time and resources into these guys. You want to see, unless it's a total disaster, and only they know that. They see these guys in practice every day. If they think he's never going to get there, then cut bait.
Yeah.
But if you still believe and you could get something out of him, then that's why you go through the process that you do, especially high functioning teams like where the Cavs are now, and you're competitive and you're cash strapped. You have to work on the margins. Like, this is how it's supposed to work. You drafted Jalen Tyson, and then he fills the spot when you have to make a trade and you have to move on from a guy.
It's almost like their minor league roster, like in baseball.
A little bit, yeah.
It's their developmental guys.
Yeah, and we mentioned Merrill a couple times. Merrill bounced around a couple different teams. He's older.
Yep.
But he needed that extra time to develop to where he could contribute. I think the same thing is going to be true with the guys that you saw taken last night. They need time to develop. So these are long-term plays. So all you're doing, can Luke Travers help this team this year? Man, I have no idea.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I have
but
no idea.
Maybe in January, February, he can, if somebody gets hurt, he can come in and fill a role. But these are long-term plays, and you're really, if you can hit on one, that's a win, man. It's like the Dominican Academy that the Guardians have. They developed Jose Ramirez. Well, that paid for itself right there.
You aren't kidding, forever.
You got Jose out of that, okay, it's worth it. No matter what else happens, it's worth it. If you can get one, you're thrilled with that.
Sure.
Now, on to the other thing. I'm fascinated by what's going on in the NBA, and I feel like I'm yelling into the clouds because, like, the Grusbeck family sold in Boston. The Bust family sold in L.A. Mark Cuban sold. And I keep going, guys.
Mark Cuban knows what's going on.
Is it just that the money is so good? And it could be. That may be all that it is. The money is so much right now, you have to bend down and pick it up.
Yeah.
And maybe that's all it is. But when you talk about the sagging TV ratings, and when you talk about valuations, and when you talk about, like, the second apron, like, The guy that Jimmy Haslam bought out in Milwaukee couldn't afford the team anymore. He couldn't make payroll. That's why he had to sell. And I'm telling you right now, I said before, give it 2 or 3 years, Jimmy will have full control of the Bucks. Wes Edens is going to be out in 2 or 3 years, and Jimmy will have the whole thing. And
maybe he'll sell the Browns, and that can be his toy.
No.
Come on, the guy can dream.
So with Dan, like, there's so much there because there's the health issue.
Sure.
And his health is what it is.
But by the way, like, we both talked about this at the awards in February. I was stunned at where he is. I expected a guy that would be verbally challenged.
Yeah.
He was not.
No.
I would expect a guy that maybe would have slightly diminished skills just mentally. He was not.
Well, I don't want to dig into, like, that's his personal medical.
Sure.
I'm not going to get into
I get that.
But
I think you'd agree with me that he was further along than I thought he was.
Well, he was in shortly after the stroke, I don't think people realize how bad it was.
Right.
It was really, really bad.
Yeah.
And the Cavs did a nice job of sort of protecting him and covering it up and everything else. And I've written about it a little bit at times about his wife stepped in and, like, took his phone away, and they moved to Miami, and she basically blocked out the entire world and said, your only focus
on your health
is to try and get better.
Yeah.
So he'll spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. Like, it is what it is.
Sure.
And, he's done some things previously that people around him said he would never do, like take Quick in public. That was one thing that he always said, I will never, like, screw the SEC. They're not going to tell me what I can and can't do. I will never go public. And then he took the company public. Selling the casinos, he had been trying to do that since prior to getting sick. But he has obviously sort of rearranged some things on the deck. This, for now, I'm going to say, like, it's just a private equity play.
Yep.
It's a quick way to, he just went to the ATM and made $600 million, basically. Punched the computer for $600 million.
What's fascinating to me, so I have a theory, this is a guess, I have no idea. I just know that smart people know when to buy things and when to sell things.
They know when to get in and when to get out.
And to your point, when Mark Cuban got out, I said Mark Cuban doesn't need a money grab. Mark Cuban doesn't need an ATM. Mark Cuban is flush forever and will always be. But
what is
Mark
coming
Cuban,
that they know?
Right.
See.
Mark Cuban prides himself. The reason he is a wealthy man is because he's made it his business to, no matter what business it is, he goes in and studies it like a crazy person and learns all of the comings and goings of that business. Oftentimes he does that before he enters. But when he decides to enter the arena, that tells me one thing. I just watch Mark Cuban. If you want to get rich, watch Mark Cuban. Watch what he invests in and do the same thing.
Yeah.
Because Mark is ahead of trends. Now, that's not to say that he hasn't missed and missed big. Famously, all the guys on Shark Tank whiffed on the Ring doorbell camera, okay? They all said, no, that's stupid. It's a gimmick. It's not going to last. Well, that guy's laughing with billions in his bank.
I think it's like with the NBA. I really think it's like upside down mortgages. Like, I feel like the league goes as superstars go. The end of the LeBron James era is come and gone. Steph Curry is at the end of that road.
But superstars come and go. That's cyclical.
But here's the thing. The wages are going up.
That's the thing.
This high.
Yeah.
And their perception is, Jason Tatum is a superstar. But is he a superstar at the level where people...
Is he worth that much money a year?
That everybody... So Jason Tatum comes to your stadium. Is Jason Tatum selling the stadium out like Kobe? Or people doing this and doing that like they would with LeBron? And I think that the valuation for the teams are like, okay, so we're going to pay you $400 million. And now I look at the collusion case with the NFL. The basketball owners are looking at baseball and seeing themselves where they are and saying, we're going to be paying guys like that amount of money. Football is the only place where they're relatively still in control of
and
everything.
Revenues and ratings
and
go up
revenues
every
keep
year.
going up.
Jason, I'll finish the point on Mark Cuban getting out. To me, that was a waving red flag that everybody should have paid attention to.
I agree.
Mark gets out when things are about to take a turn south. Mark jumps in when fledgling businesses, he's either a reclamation guy or he sees AI 5 years before anybody heard of AI, that kind of thing. So what I'm wondering is this, Jay. Ratings are down, and they're down substantially. It's not an anomaly. They're down like to panic levels. They've made it so you can't buy your championship team anymore. You can't do that. You might be able to do it for a small period, but it's so punitive. We're seeing one owner after another divest or sell. He bought this team for how much? $375 million?
Yes.
It was a record at the time.
335 or 75, I don't remember now, but it was below 400 million.
And if I'm not mistaken, it was a record sale at the time for an NBA franchise.
I don't remember.
My point here is he just sold 15% of his team and nearly doubled his initial investment.
Free money.
Yeah.
Which means he owns 85% of the Cavaliers free. And the reason I say all that is because I think he's a smart man. I think he's hedging his bet. I think that it's possible that these franchises are worth as much now as they're going to be in the near future.
Yes.
I don't see how they can go much more than what it was the Laker number, 10 billion?
10.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Think about that for a second.
I don't understand how.
It actually could. We were told it could
be
higher
12.
than 10.
Yeah, I read something the other day that said 10 could be as high as 12. I just bring all that up to say this. I think there is a reckoning coming in the NBA in the next decade. You make a great point about the superstars. I do believe, though, that superstars will flush in and out of the league.
They don't get somebody to carry the league.
Here's what
they have to carry it.
The LPGA has a problem, Jason. You know what the LPGA's problem is? It's been this way for over a decade.
No stars?
Their stars are all not American. Go look at the LPGA leaderboard from last weekend. It will be all Korean names, Asian names, no names that... No stars that look like Americans. And let's face it, this is an American institution.
You need to invoke emotion. You need to invoke some sort of passion.
Yes. How can a girl in Iowa, and now you look at what's happening with the WNBA, and it's flipping. It's the opposite. So the superstars in the LPGA are widely unknown. They don't look anything like the people that they're asking to buy the product. And the LPGA has suffered because of it. The NBA has transitioned over the last 20 years. What's the biggest difference in the NBA? Where the people come from, where the stars come from. They're no longer now. on one level, that's good for the NBA because it's become an international game,
Yeah.
and their market has grown because now they care about the NBA in China. Wait until India produces an NBA superstar. You know, then you'll see the world popularity of that game grow. However, here at home, the popularity, I think, could be in jeopardy because this next wave of superstars, look at the superstars right now. The guys right now. Too many of them are not American.
No, I know. We got to move on. Mike wants to go to Browns.
Yeah, I know.
Real quick to put a bow on this, to what you just said, America's reckoning with basketball will come in 2028 at the Olympics.
Yeah.
When Team USA
does
not win gold
Yeah.
in LA. So I like the NBA. That's one of the talks of the NBA right now.
Sure.
Is that. Secondly, owners cannot afford where the payroll is going. I think that's what kind of what you guys are alluding to.
Yes.
Part of the reason the Groospecks were selling, yes, the money is incredible, but also Boston was looking at a $500 million payroll for next year. That's why they're disassembling. $500 million payroll.
$500 million.
$230 million in salary, if I have this right, $230 in salary, and it was like $270 in taxes and penalties because of the new structure of the league. Owners literally cannot afford to make payroll. And that's why they got out in Milwaukee. That's why Jimmy's there. They wanted Jimmy for his checkbook. That's why there was a change in ownership in Boston, and they're still disassembling. Now, last thing, to take this back to Dan. For now, I'm curious to see what does he do with the money. So if he gets a check for $600 million now, what's his next play?
By the Guardians?
No, I don't think it's that.
Does he say, you know what? I just paid my tax bill.
Right.
Yeah, well,
Jason, finish your point here because I want to move on.
I don't know if it's private equity. If there's a business play in Detroit that he's working on, I'm speculating. I have no idea.
Sure.
Is it NFL? Because there's nobody else. When he was really, really sick, Grant was supposed to be the guy that sort of took it over.
Right.
And Grant is really young. He's a good dude, man. Like, I know him just a little bit.
Right.
I really like Grant. But he's young. He's like 25. He's not ready for this.
Sure.
There's nobody else in the family to take the mantle, which is why Dan came back. I wrote that last year. This was like Succession, really. It's real life Succession for anyone who watched it, where the dad has this health scare and then he comes back. In the movie or in the show, he didn't trust his family. In this case, there was nobody else.
It's not ready.
So I'm curious what the long-term play is with the Cavs and with Dan. But for now, in the short term, I'm curious to see if he's setting up something else. Is it just about the money? Maybe. Okay. Or is there another play coming that he was going to
Knowing
invest
Dan,
in that we don't
I
see?
think that's
I think it's the
likely
latter.
too. Dan
But-
doesn't seem like a guy that's going to grab money.
But again, he took Quicken Public to create liquidity for his top people.
Right.
And that's really where his fortune exploded. If you go back and look at the timeline, his fortune exploded when he took Quicken Public.
Right.
And that's when he started getting into the stratosphere of the Ballmers of the world and all those guys.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Crazy
All right,
stuff.
let's get into our next topic, guy. It's brought to us by Rougit. You guys have probably heard of Viagra or Cialis before. Maybe you've even tried it. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougit Ready. Rougit Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougit's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast. On average, in just 15 minutes, effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. Head to Rougit.com/LockedOnNFL and use LockedOnNFL to get 15% off today. That is Rougit, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL, and use promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing reviews. Please visit Rougit's websites for full safety information. So yesterday, right before the show started, we got news that the Browns had cut Agbo Okoronkwo, and it made me think, let's go back and look at Andrew Berry's free agent track record, because the three big free agents they signed in the summer of 2023 were Tomlinson, Juan Thornhill, and Agbo, who are all no longer part of the Browns. So I figured we'd go back from the start of Andrew Berry's tenure. What do you say?
It's good morning, good afternoon, and good night. That's what you call a 3-pitch strikeout.
Yeah, it's not pretty. So we're going to go back. We're going to run through all the free agents that Andrew Berry has signed. Let me run through the whole list,
This is
and then
torture.
we will discuss Andrew Berry's propensity to hit on some of these free agent contracts. Back in 2020, there were more than just these 5 guys, but these were the 5 biggest names they signed in 2020. It was Austin Hooper, Jack Conklin, Case Keenum, Adrian Claiborne, and Andrew Sendejo. In 2021, they signed John Johnson III, Tack McKinley, Troy Hill, Malik Jackson, and Anthony Walker Jr. In 22, it was Jakeem Grant, Taven Bryan, Corey Bojorquez, Chris Hubbard, and Josh Dobbs. I hear G. Bush deep breathing, heavy sighs, which is appropriate for these back and forths. In 23, they signed the 3 guys I just mentioned, Tomlinson, Thornhill, Ogbo, Mo Hurst, and Marquise Goodwin. Last year, the free agent class was Jameis Winston, Zadarius Smith, Deonta Foreman, Naheem Hines, and Quentin Jefferson. And I put this year's guys on the list. Obviously, we have no idea how they will pan out. But Tevin Jenkins, Malik Collins, JTS, Cornelius Lucas, and Jerome Baker. I did some math, and I hope my math is right. I was going over Spotrac and over the cap, so I hope it's right. But since between 20 and 2023, so the years that we have his start to the Tomlinson, Thornhill, Ogbo class, the Browns signed 12 free agents to multi-year deals. 8 of those 12 were cut or traded before the deals expired, and only Jack Conklin and Corey Bojorquez re-signed after their initial deal. So, guys, that is Andrew Berry's free agent track record since taking over as general manager of the Cleveland Browns. G. Bush, when you see it laid out in front of you like that, what say you?
Nasty work, bro. The nastiest work of all time. This is wild, man. I was just going back through them names. Andrew Sendejo, he was a meme in 2020. He was a meme. Get him out. He was a meme. These guys, think about this. We talk. Look at this. Austin Hooper would catch 2-yard passes and fall down.
Wide open trip, fall down. He forgot how to run.
Adrian Claiborne, I don't think played 4 or 5 snaps. They paid Case Keenum $8 million, right? They paid him the highest money of all time.
Highest paid backup quarterback in the league.
And when Baker Mayfield needed to sit down for two games because his shoulder was falling off, they wouldn't put Case Keenum in a game and paid him $8 million. This is wild work. Jack Conklin missed a lot of years. Can we go to 2021? This is easy. We can just go right along. John Johnson, I thought he was the worst signing of all time until they got Juan Thornhill. Tack McKinley, Troy Hill, they got him and then traded him back where he came from in like a year. Malik Jackson, come on, man. Anthony Walker was the best move out of that move, but he was giving you 6 to 8 games and leadership in nice suits. That was it. 2022, let's keep it pushing. Jakeem Grant never played it down for us. Not one. He tore his ACL. Taven Bryan, they tried to start him at defensive tackle. I did one funny meme on the barbershop, and my mom said, you got to take that down. She said, you're ruthless. Listen, he was on bended knee. I had Boys the Men playing in the background because that's how often he was getting destroyed up front. Bojorquez, he's been pretty good.
Great sign. That's the second best signing of his tenure.
But anytime your punter is that good, you're telling me what your squad is. Chris Hubbard was unplayable at times. Josh Dobbs, they got him on the squad, traded him 6 times. I don't know if this is... keep going. 2023. I told Earl, I told everybody here, we need to be... Listen, I'm going to take shame on me for this. This is on me. The fact that we was amping up Dalvin Tomlinson.
Remember that?
The fact that we had Dalvin, the best free agent signing we have is under radar. He had 3 sacks all in one game against the Cardinals, and then that was it. He's a nose tackle. Juan Thornhill, we already know what that is. Obo Akaranko, here's what I can say about him. At least he was a tough SOB. He was really tough. He played with a torn pec or a torn shoulder or whatever the case may be, but we didn't get the production. Mo Hurst, I liked him. He got hurt halfway through. Marquise Goodwin didn't really play for us either. He got injured. This was crazy. And what is it? Last year? Is this 2024? This one is. Zadarius Smith, they had to move him in the middle of the season. He was good about being in his gap.
Jameis great. He gave us great sound bites and the Pittsburgh win in the snow.
Highs and the lows and 900 yards he threw against the Denver Broncos. Deonta Foreman is a fullback, and they had this man returning kicks for him. Returning kicks. Nyheim Hines, we ain't see him at all.
No, he's on a
Jason.
milk carton.
So that's all, 3 returners. Goodwin, Hines, and the other kid, Jakeem Grant.
Yeah.
Never, ever touched the field for you. And Quentin Jefferson was so bad that they just was like, listen, we can't play you in the middle of the season. This is the nastiest work I've ever seen. And by the way, when you combine this with the misses in these drafts, with the Jed Wills and the Perion Winfreys and the Tommy Togiais and the Siaki Ikas, this is what playbook do you have? You have nothing to stand on. And don't you come at me and say, G-Bush just wants to be super negative. You give me a comment and a rebuttal. You can't rebuttal this. This is nasty work.
Well, the worst news is he's safe for next year. We're told that he's cool. It's good.
And he's going to use your 2 first-round picks, the ones that you covet, you love, and you should rightfully so. He's going to use your first-round picks to go buy an old broke-down Chevy. No. You think you want him picking your quarterback? He's going to decide.
I actually have, I think, a different view on this than. First of all, Mike, I think you missed some guys. I don't think you got them all. Well, I know you don't have postage. We talked about that yesterday.
Yeah, so they're more than just.
Was he a trade from Seattle, though?
No, he was a signing. Because I talked to him. He picked Cleveland because of the strength and conditioning staff and because of Callahan.
Oh, okay.
He wanted to come here and work with Callahan.
So full disclosure, I made these yesterday. Then we talked about that in the show yesterday, and I forgot to go add him back.
But
so
then also,
others that he's missing?
Yeah, I remember.
Poachich is in there.
Here's the name that
there
will.
was others too.
You want G. Bush's head to leave his shoulders? Malik McDowell.
Oh yeah, you left him off. Oh my
listen,
God.
No. There's more than 5 per year. I just picked 5 that I thought. Had
I mean, you got to include Malik McDowell. He was running naked from the cops.
Bro.
Wait, I'm unfamiliar with that story. That was pre-me being in Cleveland.
No. Wait, maybe it was. No, it might have been. It was before you got here.
He had a good year, and then
he had an okay year.
And then he was naked around the
Then
cops.
he went bananas.
I don't remember.
He literally was running from the cops with no clothes.
Like,
is this like, should I look it up?
Go ahead. Yeah, look it up.
Was he here?
Look it up. It's a real story, Mike.
Was he here at the same time as Perion Winfrey?
No, Winfrey came after.
Winfrey was a draft pick
first.
after, and everyone was like, can you take a defensive tackle with character issues after Malik McDowell? I wasn't quite sure.
You remember, you're right.
Yeah.
Character issues of McDowell.
Well, and Mike Hall, I mean, it was a draft pick too, but
McDowell was the second-round pick of Seattle.
He went to Michigan State.
He went to Michigan State, and I think the Seahawks took him.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. There's video of this.
There is video.
It's not safe for work. Don't look it up.
Yeah, don't be looking at that video.
I'm on a KYC website on KYC Wi-Fi.
You're fired.
I'm about to watch this video.
You're fired. No, you got to watch it for work. I mean, you can prove that's work related. You don't see anything other than him naked running from the cops.
But am I being too hard?
Well, here's the thing.
No, you're not being hard enough. I'll tell you why later. But I think you're about to go easy on him.
Well, I am more concerned with the draft history than the free agent history.
I am too. That was my point.
The free agent history,
it's hit or miss.
This is crazy. Hold on, Jason. I'm sorry. I'm watching the video. This is absurd.
Yeah. Only in Cleveland.
Naked in the street.
Only in Cleveland, Mike.
Only in Cleveland, bro.
He's literally naked walking up to the police officer saying, "Come arrest me. Come arrest me."
Yeah, we got stories like that. We got stories.
Multiple.
You name the
And you know what?
Scandal, and we've got it.
And I think that, I don't want to make light of it because I do think that there's mental health.
Oh,
no question.
Definitely. No
100%.
question.
Because I actually really enjoyed talking to him. Like, when he was here.
He could play.
I had some good conversations with him. And then, obviously, there's some stuff going on there. And I don't want to make light of it, but it is funny when you talk about the Browns.
Did not mean to cut you off, Jason, so finish your draft.
Well,
point.
no, my only thing is, in free agency, you're shopping in the scratch and dent aisle. You know, there ain't no warranty. It's as is.
99% of the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are big fish out there that are can't misses.
Well,
No, there are. There are guys that have changed teams
Javon
in free agency.
Hargrave was considered a can't miss that same 2023 year where the
Right.
Browns ended up with Tomlinson, and he's been horrific in San Francisco too. So it's not always.
Typically, if
But
they're
there are
available,
guys that
there's a
have
reason
moved
why.
in free agency and have had amazing years after they moved.
But it's very few and far between. And I'll consider, I think Obo was a hit. Yeah, he was hurt. You can't worry,
I can't
you can't
call
help
that a
the
hit.
injuries. Why not? He was productive for 2 years.
No, a hit is a regular contributor.
He had 7
that stays
sacks
on the
in 2
field.
years.
Yeah, that's just.
He's a regular contributor.
Yeah.
That's what he was. That's what you're.
I need
but
more
this
than
is
that.
what you're getting in free agency.
Yeah.
Some of those other names are horrendous. Yes.
Yeah,
but if you can get one Jack Conklin, who we all laughed at the extension, and now thank God they signed him to the extension because they need him. But if you can get one Jack Conklin in a free agent class, That's a win.
Yeah, but that's one that he's had in 5 classes.
And then he had, listen,
Pocic and Bjorkes are the 3.
Pocic, Conklin.
Bjorkes, Conklin.
Hooper filled a need for a year. But yes. But
he was
this is
never the guy that he was in Atlanta.
But this is what you get. Like, free agency is, I said this yesterday, free agency is to make up for the mistakes that you make in the draft until you can then rectify it with another draft pick. Free agency is in the NFL is never supposed to be the end-all, be-all.
I'm with you on that piece of it. But, Jay, when you look, so that's a puzzle piece. That's one piece of it. When you look at the whole picture, I'm going to really, really piss you guys off. But I'm going to go there, okay? It's 3 things. It's the players that you draft. Mm-hmm. It's the players that you sign in free agency. Mm-hmm. And it's also the players that you trade. But more importantly, it can be the players that you let go. And now I'm gonna really dive into something, and you already know where I'm going. What is the most important position in all of sports?
Only Jay can take a conversation about free agency.
You know why?
And bring it back around to Baker.
Here's why. It's part of his Browns
resume.
Of course. And I'm putting it first line. And I'm going to tell you why. Most important position in all of sports is quarterback. Who's the best quarterback in football?
I mean,
it's still Mahomes to me.
Okay, I agree with that. I want to read you guys something. These numbers are comparisons. Baker Mayfield to Patrick Mahomes the last 2 years.
Who was the vice president that went quail hunting and shot a guy?
It's Dick Cheney.
Yeah.
Jay is Cheney. Free agent. Free agent.
Yep.
Free agent.
Yep.
Baker.
Boom.
Now, hold on.
Hey, listen, I'm over the target, and you guys know it.
Hey, listen.
Listen to these numbers.
Go ahead, man.
Passing yards. Last 2 years combined. Baker, 8,500. Mahomes, 8,100.
Okay.
Passing touchdowns. Baker, 69. Mahomes, 53.
Okay.
Completion percentage, Baker, 67.9. Mahomes, 67.3. Interceptions, 26, Baker, 25, Mahomes. Passer rating, Baker, 100.7. Mahomes, 93. We can moan and complain all we want about his absolutely horrific drafts. We can also bring up the fact that his free agents aren't exactly overwhelming. Mm-hmm. But to me, the elephant in the room will be, and always has been, the organization's decision to move on from Baker Mayfield for Deshaun Watson. So by these numbers, what I've just displayed is the guy that we universally agree is the best quarterback in football has been outplayed the last 2 years by the guy we got rid of so we could get a guy who is the historically worst quarterback in the NFL.
The trade didn't work. Nobody's going to argue that.
You can't just say it didn't work. That's like saying the parachute didn't open. Hey, the parachute didn't open. What happened?
They had to move on because Baker is never going to take a team to a Super Bowl, and I will die on that hill until
you know what? He's a hell of a lot closer than anybody we have right now.
Until you get a guy that you believe can take you there,
so you blow everything up. Let's trade the guy that we don't think can get us there for a guy who will end up being the worst signing in the history of the NFL.
McNuggets over the weekend, G. Bush went slightly.
I don't know how this guy has a job.
G. Bush went slightly viral because someone said and put it down. I said Kevin Stefanski has not produced and developed the quarterback not once. People got all mad and upset because I said that, right? Now, we got 2 people right here that are corroborating the evidence. The evidence is, I said it. I said, listen, Baker Mayfield's playing the best football of his career right now, and it's not in Cleveland. Yeah, nope. That is a bona fide, you cannot argue that. Deshaun Watson, the trade did not work. We can all argue that, right? My thing is, I bring this all back to Square Sitter and the free agency of Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski. They got work to do this year, man. They got, this is, we're showing you their resume day in and day out. It's not a winning resume.
You know, I would slightly disagree with he hasn't developed any quarterback.
I'm looking for him.
Because when Baker was here and took us to the playoffs, we all thought, well, there he is. Did you not think that Baker Mayfield was the answer at one point?
I did.
Okay, so you got to give Stefanski credit for that.
But here, I can also give Kevin Stefanski credit for shadow realming the situation. Baker and Stefanski did not get along. It was they did not get along.
Is that true, Jay? They did. That makes it sound like they didn't like one another.
That relationship imploded after he got hurt, and Baker said, "I'm playing." Kevin Stefanski was like, "Okay, yeah, we're gonna show."
I think if that's the truth, it probably happened in Pittsburgh when Baker was getting blasted.
That was
one play after another, and his head coach was just nodding at him when he came in,
and Baker
didn't slide a tight end over there.
And Baker said, "I mean, we got TJ Watt over here on our rookie, and
we might want to do something about that."
Now, look, I'm just saying, they didn't like each other. Didn't seem like they got along.
I don't know that that's true. I would love to know the truth about that. I don't know.
Now Jason is sighing. Now Jason sound like me over here.
Is Heidi Watney really yet? Is she on? Can you call
She's not
Heidi?
here yet. I'll
tell you that. That's a major upgrade from what we're. That's a major upgrade from what we're dealing with.
I tell you what.
Do you guys know Cleve TA on Twitter?
Yeah.
So this kind of came up. This whole idea to go back and look through all of this was after Ogbo got caught. I was talking to Cleve TA. Great dude. If you don't follow Cleve TA on Twitter, you really should. One of the best analytics guys, not just in Cleveland, but does NBA draft stuff. NFL
I don't understand what he does for a living.
Really. He made his own analytics website.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So we were going back and forth, and I mentioned, I'm going to look through this. I'll let you know what the hits are. He goes, do the Browns. Let me know what you see. But I bet if you do this for all 31 NFL teams, there'd be a lot fewer hits than you expect. He's like, I'm not saying the Browns are
sort of
up
my
there,
point.
but he goes, there's a lot fewer hits. So
you don't build your team through free agency.
Yeah.
You take them from good to great.
Exactly.
You can fill in the pieces, but you're backfilling. It's not like the draft.
We did the Browns, and I mentioned that the three best I could find were Pochich, Conklin, and Bjorquez.
Yeah.
And if you want to throw Mo Hurst in as your fourth, because technically he did re-sign again, and he was productive as a third or fourth defensive tackle. And Cleve was like, yeah, that's grim. That's grim. He's like, I'm not going to ask you to do it for the other 31 teams because I know you have a life. I guarantee they're not as high as you think they may be.
Sure.
But that is a list of a lot more misses than hits on Cleveland. So I don't know how it compares. I don't have the exact
I would tend to think that he's right.
And when you don't have first round draft picks, like the Browns have not had, and you miss on the guys that you do pick, and you're missing at that rate for free agents, and you're not developing anybody, you're screwed.
You're missing on all angles to make your team better.
You're not. That's how you miraculously look up one day and say, "Wow, how did we go at 3-14?"
You're right, 100% right.
Because have you seen our receivers? Have you seen the different defensive tackles that we got coming in and rotating out and haven't given us anything? I remember, and remember all back in 2020, and this is how fast life comes at you. We talked about how much of a window the Browns had. You talked about, okay, they looked like they had found Baker. That Nick Chubb was in his complete prime. You're like, wow, this is great. Miles Garrett,
on defense.
Prime.
Yeah.
Denzel Ward, prime. You saw all of those pillars. Joe Bitonio was still a young guy. You look like you found Teller out of nowhere.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you look up, 5 years goes by, and you're talking about a youth movement.
I love what you said. Life comes at you fast.
Comes at you fast, man.
That's it.
Find you a quarterback, man. Find somebody. Play these young dudes.
We had one. We had one who's outplayed the universally agreed upon best quarterback in the NFL.
How long you been sitting on them stats, Jay?
Well, I've been waiting for the right opportunity to use this. It's like when you play
I saw that
poker.
graphic on Wednesday, and I said, Jay's going to use this on the show.
When you play poker, you look at your hand. You're like, hey, I'm going to sit on this for a minute.
We got 2 pair. We had 2 pair in the offseason. We had nothing for that.
Nothing. And then just when the game starts to get a little interesting, you go, boom!
Jesus, take the wheel.
Before Jason
knows I'm right,
flames,
dude. That's why this is so painful for him.
We have
because
our
you can't
guest
just read
ready.
those
Yes,
numbers.
I can.
No, you can't.
He can't win a Super Bowl.
He hasn't
He's not
yet.
good enough.
Can Sean?
Oh my God.
We have our guest. We have Jason.
My point
we
wasn't
have our guest.
Baker Mayfield or Deshaun Watson. My point was the guy who made that decision also made all of those poor decisions on free agency and also has been subpar in the draft year after year.
If you wanted to fire
year.
him after last year, there was a case to be made to do it.
I agree.
All right, we got our guest.
I
Let me
agree.
do a read and we'll bring in Heidi Watney to help us talk some Guardians ahead of
some
tonight's
blood
game
pressure medicine for
against
Jay.
the Cardinals. But today's episode of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show is brought to you by Epicor. Every team knows the value of hard work, of taking pride in what you build, in practicing every detail to get the best results. But no one player, no matter how amazing, can do it all alone. Working together makes getting the win easier. At Epicor, the All-Stars are the hardworking manufacturers and distributors who create and deliver the things we all need, from aerospace to electrical to medical devices, from small businesses with big dreams to growing enterprises with global visions. We'll equip you with the right tools to move forward, think ahead, and lead the way, because as the clock ticks down, you need to make the most out of every hardworking minute. Easier doesn't cut corners. Easier finds the lane. Discover your success at easierwithepicor.com.
Can we talk baseball?
We are. And tonight's
Thank
Guardians-Cardinals game is on Apple TV, and that's why we are thrilled to have Heidi Watney joining us now, who will be reporting from the sidelines on tonight's Guardians game. How you doing today, Heidi?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Yeah, we
Awesome.
just have a little football talk here. You know.
Feisty. You're feisty, I see, this morning. That's all right.
Heidi, whenever we talk Browns, it gets crazy in here. It gets really crazy. Now, normally, one of our respites of having to talk about the Browns 365, it's the Cleveland Guardians. But lately, they've gotten a little frustrating, too. I said yesterday on Channel 3 during the sportscast, I think that the honeymoon is over. I think Stephen Vogt came in. There was a love affair between the players. Yeah, I'm not saying that they were ready for a new voice because they love Tito, but the new voice that came in, they clearly embraced. They were upper half of the league in defense. They were getting clutch hitting. Their power numbers had surged. It seems like over the offseason, all of that momentum went away. They're hovering at about 500. What's your take on what's happened from the Guardians last year, who were just a couple of wins from playing in a World Series, to a team now that is probably looking like they might be lining up to be sellers at the deadline instead of buyers?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. The offense just it's been hard to come by in Cleveland for a number of years now. They've really been bolstered by their pitching, their bullpen. Last year, best bullpen in the league. This year, they've regressed a little bit, but they're still very, very good. But offense is just, they've got Jose Ramirez and not a lot else in terms of offense. Stephen Kwan can set the table sometimes, but that's just not enough, especially when you've got a division where, Minnesota knows how to hit. Detroit has just been one of the best teams in baseball this year. They're putting it together on all fronts. So it's tough. It's a tough road. And I kind of agree with your assessment. There's always going to be, when a guy comes in that's as beloved as Stephen Vogt to take over the team, there's always going to be, some excitement, some energy, some adrenaline from that. And that can maybe cool off in year two. But I wouldn't necessarily say this is Stephen Vogt's problem. I think it's really just an offense problem. I mean, you can't get shut out and be one of the bottom teams in scoring in baseball and succeed.
True. Yeah, that's surely
Heidi,
true.
how do you? I always ask the people that come on and we talk about the Guardians. How do you make sense of the fact that the Guardians seem to be able to develop pitchers out of nowhere, get guys, rehabilitate them? Boyd comes to mind. Some of the guys that they've got in here, but it seems like they can't develop any power, any hitters, any consistent offense. What do you make it out of a team that is able to do certain things on one side, but on the other side, it's like, what are we doing in the farm system?
Yeah, that's very interesting because obviously they've got something with a pitching factory that they're able to identify what they want and then turn that into major league talent. And as you say, develop the pitchers. That's been for years with Cleveland. And there's been a number of different people that have come and gone in the organization as well. But they haven't been able to get the offense going. And a lot of times it's really one or the other with a lot of clubs. A club will be really good at developing, and this goes back to even like with Theo Epstein. They'll be really good at developing hitters, right? The Cubs when Theo was there, or the Red Sox, and then they're going to go external to sign free agents to solidify their pitching because they're not as strong as that. A club can focus on one aspect, and then the other aspect they accentuate with free agency. The problem is Cleveland hasn't been spending in free agency.
Yeah, that
so
is
if
the
you're
problem.
really good at developing Yeah, if you're really good at developing one aspect of the game, you're gonna have to go outside and bring in people from the outside, unless you're like Tampa Bay and have some sort of magic potion that just seems to continue to turn out offense and defense. The Rays have really turned it up lately. And Cleveland's been able to get enough out of their offense in the past, but this year I just don't think they just don't have it. I mean, they traded the entire right side of their infield, and Santana's actually been decent for them, but it's just, they need more. They need more offensively than what they have. I just don't see them as a playoff team. And then, what are they going to do? Are they going to sell? They're just
not much to sell.
They're not completely out of it.
No,
they're still in the wild card race right now, but
yeah, they are. But so is everybody else in the American League. Going into yesterday, 12 of the 15 teams were within 3 games of a playoff spot. So everybody is in contention, and when everybody's in contention, you really have to make a decision among those teams that are fighting for wild cards, and they're clearly now just in the wild card race as Detroit has seemingly run away with the Central. My fear too, and Heidi, this is stunning to me, because last year I mentioned they were a middle of the pack defensive team. They've committed the 3rd most errors in all of baseball. Yesterday they had 4 errors and 2 hits, and Kyle Manzardo had 3 errors in 1 inning. And when you're hitting, what is Manzardo's average? $170?
He's about 220-ish.
My God, you better bring something to the party. And
well, if they play him every day, he would.
Oh yeah, I've heard that yesterday when he made 3 errors. They're like, well, of course he's going to make 3 errors. He doesn't play every day. No, that's not.
He's
that's
not elite defensively.
He's not elite. But you can't make 2 errors on 1 play. Although the second error on that bunt,
that's Naylor.
That was Bo Naylor. Bo Naylor was picking daisies.
Yeah.
He wasn't even paying attention.
He looked like a little leaguer kicking the dirt.
It was bad, Heidi. It was bad. Honestly, I didn't catch it the first time they showed it in real time. I saw it on the replay. I'm like, wow, why did Manzardo get that throwing error? Because Bo Naylor,
you got to give it to somebody, and Naylor wasn't paying attention.
Naylor wasn't paying attention. I mean, you got Miles Straw, who's an aggressive base runner at third base, breaking for home the second Manzardo dropped the ball, and Bo Naylor is not prepared. I got to tell you, Stephen Vogt at all of his news conferences, and I'm sure if you talk to him, and I know you will, he'll be like, our guys are really nice guys. They're really good guys. Love them all. Good guys. Play hard. They make mistakes. This is what I wanted to see. I wanted to see when Bo Naylor made that error. Bo Naylor's hitting about $170. Yeah. Okay. When he made that error, what I wish would have happened, because this team needs a kick in the ass right now. I wish that he would have just taken him out of the game. Not right then. When the inning's over, you put Hedgie in, and that's it. And it's going to send a message to everybody. If you're going to stand around and watch while teammates are trying to make plays, and you're only going to hit $170, I don't have a spot for you in my lineup. But instead, afterwards, well, it was hot. It's really hot. And we're trying hard. Our guys are trying. And they're nice guys. They're really nice guys. We like them. And I love Stephen Vogt. It makes it sound like I'm picking on him. But, man, you got to, at some point, Heidi, you've seen this. You've been around the game long enough. At some point, and maybe he did this privately in the locker room. I think this is the worst they've looked all year, and maybe in a couple years. Yesterday, they needed a tough manager speech at the end of the game. I don't know if they got it or not, but something's got to change.
Yeah, that's one of the things. We've had Cleveland twice, or we've had Cincinnati twice already this year, and that's one of the things that Terry Francona told me that he was doing in Cincinnati was more discipline, defense, like things that you can control in the game, right? Hitting is hard, pitching is hard. You have those aspects of the game, but the mental errors, the miscues, those things, a manager like Terry Francona is not going to permit to happen. So Stephen Vogt, everybody loves him. From when he was a player, and he was an all-star, people just love him. He was great personality. As a manager, sometimes you have to be that a-hole. You've got to be that, especially a day like yesterday, which was a very sloppy game for Cleveland. I don't know. I haven't been inside their clubhouse this year yet. I'll be down there today, obviously. So I'll see what the vibe is like, but maybe they need someone that's a little more tough love to kind of crack down on some of that stuff that just seems to be like mental miscues.
Give us a preview about this series of the Cardinals in town. I think tonight is Luis Ortiz and Sonny Gray.
It is Gray, yeah.
Sonny Gray.
And both teams in the wild card hunt. I think Cardinals are a game out. Just what do you expect this weekend?
Well, the Cardinals have been surging lately. They've actually been pretty good. They seem to be putting it together. I know they dropped the last 2 against the Cubs, but they won the first 2 really well. in their series they're just coming off of. Both teams coming in this one a little bit feisty. It seems to be a little that midway point in the season, everyone's ready for like a little break or some fireworks or something. But Cardinals have been a better team. Their offense is looking really good this year. They're a clean team defensively. They're finally getting some production out of a lot of their younger guys that they hadn't been getting. Burleson's been really good for them this year. Arenado seems to be coming back. Contreras moving to first base seems to take some pressure off of him. They've got a really great story with Ponzo, one of their backup catchers. So, and then Sonny Gray is Sonny Gray. He's been consistent for them. He's been good. He's been better at home than on the road. So might catch a break there. It's interesting. His stats are far worse on the road than they are at home. But he's a good guy. He's also struggled against Cleveland over the course of his career for some reason. But I think it'll be a great matchup. I think right now, like if you're just looking at these teams coming in, the Cardinals have the edge in terms of talent and ability and the way that they're performing right now as a team. But, that's why they play the games.
I like your point about both teams being a little bit feisty right now. Yesterday, the Guards Jays, that obviously when you hit Vlad was unintentional in my mind. Why is Bobby going to throw at him there? And I think he even said, I wasn't trying to hit you. Then they, of course, have to extract their revenge, and they hit our best player, our whole entire offensive part of the lineup. And, when you get hit in the hand, he's had some hand issues. That's, I think, why he was a little extra sensitive about it. And I saw the Cubs at the end of at the end of their game, I think, was it Contreras who was barking at the other teams? There was some words that were exchanged. You would never predict fireworks in the first game of a series between teams that don't have a history. But yesterday, the Guards' blood pressure was up, and the Cards' blood pressure was up. Who knows? I mean, it could carry over into something tonight. I'll be watching for it.
Anyone goes high and tight, they're going to be on edge, right? Contreras was barking because he got hit in the hand.
He did.
And he broke a couple bones last year by a hit by pitch. So he said after the game, that's why he was so feisty, is he had that experience last year where breaks a couple bones, misses time. He doesn't want that to happen again. And it's his former team. So he's a very emotionally charged guy anyway. So it doesn't take a lot to light that powder keg. But yeah, he was feisty. So yeah, if someone goes up and in or someone gets hit tonight, I just think these teams are a little bit on edge, but that's what you want from your team. You want that fight. You want that dog, especially as we're a couple weeks from the All-Star break. Players can kind of taste it, right? They can taste that little bit of a reset in the season, but it happens just after the midway point, and I think teams just kind of go into July a little bit on edge.
So for those that aren't sure how they're going to watch the game tonight, educate those that aren't familiar with this. I remember we had you on last year ahead of the Guards game on Apple TV, which, by the way, I watched, and it's beautiful because Apple puts the product to the home in 4K, where if you're getting a game like through Spectrum or you're on cable or whatever, it's supposed to look nice, but it's dumbed down, as I like to say. But man, when you watch Apple TV baseball on Fridays, it bombards the senses visually. How do people watch it? Tell us a little bit about the process of getting this game into our houses tonight.
Yeah, well, you and I know the ins and outs of TV, right? When things say that they're in, 4K or 1080 or whatever they are, they're usually shot in like 780 and up-res. But
That's
Apple
right.
shoots, and there's a special facility in like the middle of the country somewhere that they have to send the video to because it's the only one that can process video that good. So yes, you're right. The picture quality is amazing. Apple TV, it's streaming. You just have to have an Apple TV account. You can do it from your phone, your computer, your TV, your wherever. And I always say come for the baseball, stay for like the great shows because they've got, Ted Lasso, which is coming back for another season and is one of my favorite shows. The morning show, Severance, all those good things. But the great part about Apple is that this applies to the baseball broadcast and all of their shows and everything they do from your iPhone to your iPad to whatever. Perfection is the standard at Apple. So they want the best fan experience. They want the best user experience with your iPhone. They want to make it easy for you. Best fan experience, how do we do that? We take fans closer to the game. So we're doing on-deck interviews. I'm going to be talking to, I believe, one of the Cardinal players on deck as they're about to step in the box
That's awesome.
and hit against Luis Ortiz tonight. That's why we do the manager interviews in game, usually about the third inning, after the third inning into the fourth inning. We talk to the manager. What are you seeing? Hey, what happened on that play? Were you challenged or you went out and argued with an umpire? What are you seeing from this guy? We talk to players. I don't think we're talking to someone in game on headset tonight, but we do that very often. We try to bring fans closer to the game with the cameras, with the access, with the interviews we do. And that's the fun part for me as a field reporter. My favorite part are the interviews I get to do and getting to bring fans into the mindset of what these players and managers are thinking about in game. So maybe we'll talk to Stephen Vogt about some of the stuff going on with the team defensively, but
I hope you do. And it is a good watch. It's fun to watch the games on Apple TV. You guys do an incredible job, and that's the whole idea, is to bring fans closer to the game. I know that some people don't really love it, but I love in the All-Star game when they do those in-game player interviews where they have earpieces and they're talking to the broadcasters while the play is going on. It's wild. I don't think we'll ever get there in regular season games, but I don't know. Maybe if you guys have done something like that, it's fun to watch.
Oh, we've done it. We've done it quite a bit.
I love it.
It's great. We had
great.
First game of the year, we had Francisco Lindor mic'd up at shortstop. He had 2 of the 3 putouts in the inning.
I saw that.
You hear him grunting, you hear him talking to his teammates, you hear, he goes between English and Spanish so seamlessly. I'm so jealous of his bilingual, just how great he is and all that. But he's playing a premium defensive position and talking to us on the broadcast, and it really is great TV. We will never push someone to do it that's not comfortable with it. We ask, and we kind of get a feel by talking to PR and managers and players who is more comfortable with it, because we want to make it a good show. We don't want to cause a problem, defensive miscue or anything like that. But when it works, it's beautiful television.
Yeah, it really is. Frankie's the best guy to do it with, too, just because of his personality and how much he loves to play the game. And when pitchers are talking, I think they've done that in an All-Star game a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
One of the relievers, I think, was mic'd up. I couldn't watch enough of it, and if they did that in every game, I would never miss, because I love, he's saying, I think I'm gonna give him a cutter here. I'm gonna change his eye level here. It just really takes you into the thought process and the chess match that is between every pitcher and hitter during the game. Heidi, thank you for your time. Enjoy Cleveland while you're here, and give the Guards a win tonight. They need it in a big way. They need it.
Hopefully no rain tonight. Thanks,
yeah,
guys.
I know. Fingers crossed. All right, Heidi, thank you.
Yeah.
Apple TV, Guards and Cards tonight. First pitch 7:10, which is different. We've got all these different start times for the Guardians. Have you noticed?
Yeah.
It's hard to
a little
keep.
aggravating.
Yeah, it is.
I think they're trying to keep the downtown business people to just come over right after work with some of the earlier starts.
Yeah.
Do it at 5.
Well, people are still in their office at 5.
Yeah,
it takes about an hour to wrap up and get to the park.
I thought it was earlier in the year they had the earlier starts.
They do.
For the kids.
You get them home in time for school.
And then they push it later in summer. But here, we're still having 6:40 starts this week.
Yeah. And it seems like the new norm. And I think
Sunday's 12:40 too.
I know.
12:05. 12:05.
All year, it's like 1:05, 12:05, 6:40, 7:10. It's crazy. It's hard to keep up with. I like when day games start at 1:05 and night games start at 7:05, and you kind of lock it in and you can plan around it. But
when I was
know
a
they're
kid,
trying to find the right date.
When I was a kid, 7:30 every game.
Yes,
every game was 7:30. Every home game.
And the wild thing, Jay, was that's when games went 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
So if to watch it on TV, you were up to 11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now these games that start at 6:10 and you get a quick one at 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's 8:30. You're leaving the ballpark. The game's over.
I just realized that that was kind of mad late, because I remember my mom used to be like, "Oh, you can't watch Monday Night Football because Monday Night Football will come on at 9."
Used to start at 9.
And then we'd be like, "Yo, it'd be 11:30 or something." Then I was proud of my dad. That's why he gets better gifts than my mom during.
He would stand up and say, "Let the boy watch football."
Yeah, because it would just be like, I just got to start staying up at 9, and then I was pushing it because favorite team back then was the Guardians or the Indians, and they was trash in the 80s. But they would go play Oakland, play out west, and he'd be like, them starts is 10:05.
Yeah.
I'm staying up to 10 o'clock game watching. I'll say, let him stay up.
Yeah, that's a lot of rope. I didn't get that much rope.
I got that rope. I was like, listen, and shout out to you. That's why you get the good gifts. Yeah, because she stepped in. But yeah, back in the day, you think about it. If you a kid you up to like it start at 10?
Yeah.
That's a 1 o'clock maybe.
So yeah, I got a
tough,
question
man.
for you guys
It's
real
tough.
quick before we head over to KYC. On the KYC show, we're going to give some draft grades. We'll talk about some comments TJ Hushmanzada had about the Browns quarterback battle. We're also going to talk about the Guardians and the Blue Jays hitting batters and whether or not there should have been some more retaliation.
Can we talk more about Baker?
No, we will not talk about Baker. However,
I might fit him in there somewhere. I got to take a look.
Listen,
I have no doubt.
I have no doubt that you'll fit him into each block
game
if
is-
possible.
I'm going to do my
But
best.
Do you guys expect, and I know baseball is a different sport than football or basketball, but like in basketball, for example, then we got one. Let me do one super chat, and then I'll ask this question.
Okay.
But shout out to Michael Ribovich and Chambo Kicks for upgrading their memberships. Dragon the Abandoner said Jay really compared Baker to Mahomes. Oh my God!
I didn't do that. For the record, I didn't do that. Somebody created that meme, and I just read the numbers. I mean,
John Frischel.
and then smart
Right.
people can make their own deductions from it.
Hey,
Okay, so
That's what Jay did.
My question is, after a game that has an incident like that, and after a game that, Jay, you described as potentially rock bottom for the Guardians,
I think it was.
is there a bit of a gut check in baseball? I know it's a 162-game season. It's not an immediate turnaround, even though in this case it is. Do you think we get a gut check reaction here from the Guardians?
Do you mean like in their effort and the way they play tonight,
Yeah.
or they better?
I don't think they're going to hit a Cardinal in
But see,
retaliation.
here's the crazy thing about baseball. Momentum is the next day's starting pitcher. They're going against a good pitcher tonight. No, Sonny Gray has struggled against the Guardians historically. He hasn't
His home
been
road
great.
splits, as Heidi mentioned, he's got a 6 ERA on the road, a 2.50 at home.
Yeah, he's a much different guy for sure, home and away. He's a good pitcher. He's capable of throwing a great effort. But yesterday, so momentum is as strong as the next day's starting pitcher. Listen, I thought when Hosey knocked in the game-winning run on Wednesday night, I said watching the game, there it is. That's the spark this team needed. They needed a game where they pulled it from the jaws of defeat. The way they, worked around some things in the 10th inning, I thought, okay, good. Now you build on that. Now they got bases packed because of the air on the Quan bunt. Nobody out. Okay, this is real. I had no doubt Hosey was going to win it, even if it was with a sacrifice fly. He laces the base hit to left. And I thought, okay, there it is. That's the spark. And the best part about that was you get to capitalize on it because you're only away for 15 hours. You're just going to go home, go to bed. You're going to get up early, come right back to the ballpark, walk into that clubhouse. There's still the smell of the champagne, so to speak. You get back out there, and they play their worst game of the year.
This ain't Field of Dreams. They ain't got the horses for that. This ain't.
I guess
Eastern
not.
outfield.
We'll talk about it more in the TV show coming up here in 3
ain't
minutes
Field of
on
This ain't Field of Dreams.
WKYC.
Your grandfather's
Peace.
not coming out